Welcome to the Questions Podcast. We are here with an incredible human being. His name is Mark Schulman, and he is an amazing drummer. We've become very good friends.
He called me an incredible human being.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. You wouldn't be in this room if you weren't.
Most incredible
I love you, man. I love you. I do.
You too.
I do.
I love you too.
Always the most incredible glasses too, and at some point we'll
talk about
talk about that.
We'll talk about
it's
that.
a real
Yeah, we're going to get into
conversation.
that.
Yeah.
Let me make a note of that.
But thank you
before
for
we get into
calling
that,
me an incredible human being.
let me let the listener know that you are a very accomplished drummer, which has been your area of expertise for a long time, and you've played with Pink, Foreigner, Simple Minds, Stevie Nicks, Billy Idol, among many others. Great studio musician as well. Have your own studio, right, in Venice.
I do.
Which I
Thank
can't
you
wait to
very
come
much.
to. And an author. He wrote the book Conquering Life's Stage Fright, which is pretty obvious what that's about, becoming the best version of yourself. We can dive into a little bit more of that.
Absolutely.
And you've definitely chosen a different career path, too, later in life, which is a very cool thing, motivational speaking. So you've been doing a lot of that lately, and I've seen you light up when you talk about it. So I'm excited to – that's mostly what I want to chat about today,
Well, that's mostly what we can chat about then.
Okay.
What makes you guys happy?
Because everything else is
I'm here to please.
trademarked. Yeah.
We can also talk about how we all met.
Yeah, how did you guys all
How
meet?
did we all meet?
Well, we met
A
doing
Roman bathhouse? Never mind.
We met at a TV show. The first time that I met you, I was invited to come to Nashville to check out the operation of this show that was eventually named Banded. And I came there during the auditions, and you were playing drums in the house band, auditioning all of these musicians that came up on stage. And I was there for one day. I think you guys were there for a few days. So I got to see one day of rehearsal. And it was actually the first time in this whole process, because I had been kind of considered for this hosting gig for quite a while. It was the very first time that I thought, oh, this is a real thing. Like, this is actually happening. And it wasn't just all the cameras around and all the production, but it was also the quality of what you guys were doing on stage. It was like, this guy Mark is like a fantastic drummer. I mean, This is like top-notch, legit stuff, right?
Man. The entire band is the best of the best.
Truly, yeah. The entire band are all made up of legends. And you have since become a judge, which I think is just like a very cool role. And you do it very well, by the way. I really appreciated having you as a
For being
as a judge.
non-judgmental, I'm a pretty decent judge.
Yeah.
I was the judgmental judge.
You were the judgmental.
judge,
You do all
yeah.
the judgmentaling, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the good cop, bad cop thing.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely.
Although I did get booed once, which was amazing.
Really? That felt
because
good?
I was honest. It felt good because it was authentic.
Yeah.
That's the
I
whole of the
lost
story.
count the amount of times I got booed.
And you just had a look. You would just go, no, well, it's true.
I was
So-
nice, but I was honest.
You're all wrong, but okay.
You're all wrong, but okay.
Yeah.
When can I watch this? I feel just
Tomorrow night, actually.
Really?
Yeah, is when it's,
debut episode tomorrow.
Is this live?
Yeah. No, it's not live. But
So, but when you say tomorrow night, meaning
when you say
May
tomorrow night,
13th
May
is the
13th.
debut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this will air like
Access
9
T-
months from now when we
Yeah.
finally get our shit together.
Access TV for those who
but,
watch. It's on Access.
it's
and
on
you'll be able to
Access
see
TV.
But DJ Swiv and I will not be on until the second episode on. So don't watch the first
Am
episode.
I in the first episode?
Of course you are. You're
Oh,
the
wow.
star.
You're
You're in
the host.
everything.
Yeah.
You're all
I'm
over
in
everywhere.
You're the host.
Yeah.
You're
There
the
was a
face,
lot of things
You're the
that I-
face of the
Yeah,
operation.
you are the
but-
face.
Yeah, but there were a
You're
lot
the
of things
mask.
that I wasn't, involved in, like a lot of the house stuff, right? You went to the house. I never went to the house. I did one time before they even moved in, but like that would have been nice to have been part of all that stuff,
It was nice, but it smelled like 25 musicians.
I'll bet it
So, you know.
smelled really bad. I got in at the best time, then I guess. And then Jordan, of course, we know each other via the same route.
Yeah, we all kind of met. Well, you guys met a little before, and
Yep.
then I kind of met you guys when I came down, and
Yep.
we kind of had the little tequila bond going on.
We did.
because
Yeah.
we're all fans of great tequila.
Yes, we are.
We all
We are.
we all share that enthusiasm.
Although we
And
tend
so-
to like different tequilas, but that's okay.
I think we have
There's the
We have a
debate.
fair bit of overlap. There's,
Yeah.
you
There's
know,
a
healthy
good
debate,
amount of
healthy
overlap.
debate
Yeah.
between the boys.
Yeah.
And yeah, I found that we all kind of after the show, after taping, we would all just go hang out and have some margaritas or have a couple pours and eat some tacos, and it was a great time down in Nashville. So
Yeah,
It was a
on
great
Broad
time.
Street,
and a great
Love
experience. And it's amazing when you do something like that, how close you can feel to somebody. Like
Yeah.
when you're doing something that's creative. Also, we probably felt a little bit like fish out of water. It's like, wow, what is all this that's happening so quick, you know?
Yeah, right.
you also
and-
don't know what the end. This is something I learned. When we're in the studio, we kind of know what the end product's going to feel and sound like, but you actually have no idea what a TV show is going to feel like in the end. I still have no idea.
Still have no
I
idea.
still haven't seen it yet.
Let's get really honest. You've never hosted a show before, right?
No.
And I've never judged a show, and you never judged a show. So we were all in
That's what I mean.
completely new
Trying something
territory
new
for all of
and-
us.
yeah, right.
And so it was very exciting. And as you said, very unknown. It was not predictable.
Yeah.
Right.
And we
wait.
were just trying to do the best we could to be authentic. And
I will say, I had a blast. It was
oh
a
my
fun,
God, it was so
a
much
fun
fun.
time. It was
I'm having a
it's
blast still because I'm
Yeah.
with you guys again.
still having
How
fun.
many judges were on the show?
3.
3.
Three
Wow.
judges.
Yeah.
Two right here.
Two
Two
of
of
them
us
Two
are
are
here.
here, and we have Diara,
and then Diara.
who,
Is not here.
she's not here.
Wow.
Yep.
Exciting.
Yep. Three judges. I liked to consider myself as like a bystander judge. So I would always come and talk to these guys after. So how
Yeah,
did that go?
after
What did
the-
that thing?
Well,
Because it felt a little funny to just be like, the host's job is just to amp up, right? You're just like, that was amazing. Even if
Yeah.
I was like, but it was but you really blew that second verse kind of thing. Right?
Yeah.
And Brandon would always know when there was going to be like a spicy judging thing because he had an in-ear. And he could always hear our microphones that were on. So you had a live, no matter what we said, you could always hear it, right?
I could hear your guys' banter back and forth.
You could hear the
And
banter back
that
and
was
forth.
probably the
That's
most
so
fun part of
great.
the show was the secret banter that nobody ever
Yeah.
knew about.
Yeah.
We were just cracking each other up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At one point, they turned it off, and I was like, I want that back.
You
Yeah,
want
so we did that back.
Yeah.
Because like there'd
That's so
be a
great.
band performing and it'd be like fantastic, and then another band might perform and maybe it wasn't so great, and then we'd be chatting, kind of collecting notes because we kind of had
Yeah.
two different angles. Like I sort of approached the songwriting, the production side of things, and Mark really approached the performance side of things because you're a
Yeah, we made a decision to do that so we wouldn't be sort of crossing
crossing
over each other.
streams,
Yeah, crossing streams too much.
We only did that when it was when we wanted to.
Yeah.
But then so we would be talking about like, oh, that was a weird decision or whatever, and then sometimes it would get a little spicy, and I'd just see like Brandon on the side of the stage just like dying laughing, like,
oh
just,
yeah,
it was
how
great.
do I deal with this now? Who do I throw to first?
Yeah, totally.
And it was great when we also always, because we didn't always agree, particularly you and Diara. There was a couple of really good, like, which is real. Because this is actually true reality television. Nothing scripted. We don't know what's going to happen. We
Nobody
don't know
ever
what we're
told
going
us what to say.
Nobody told us what to say at all.
Say what you want.
Yep.
And they were like, try not to be so mean.
Well, they
I was
say
like,
that
well,
to you.
I'll be honest.
And they tell me, try not to be so nice.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So,
By the
there
way,
was
for
no
the
like,
record, I never felt like you were too mean.
No, you were honest. You're
Yeah,
really
I
acute.
never-
You're really acute and you're paying a lot of attention.
I know I'm a pretty cute guy. I know.
You're cute and acute.
And acute.
No, but I
but my
appreciate
philosophy
that.
in life, and you know me
direct.
for quite a bit, is like I just be direct and honest. It doesn't mean me just speak your truth, and hopefully most people will appreciate that, and the ones who don't, there's 8 billion
Yeah.
people in this world. I don't need you.
Right.
Right.
So-
Reminds
you
me
weren't
of
that
my-
Simon Cowell. You were just,
No,
yeah.
no. I wasn't
he
writing
was-
singers.
No,
you
and
know,
you
I
weren't
wasn't
trying to
writing
insult
singers.
people. You were just getting very direct,
Yeah, yeah.
which is great.
Got it.
And you
It's a
did
producer's
you,
job.
You put effort into it. I mean, you would pick apart the lyrics. You had the lyrics sent to you beforehand.
Oh,
you were really
I was
taking
on
your
the
job
lyrics, the
pretty
production.
seriously,
I
which was
wanted
great.
Demos early,
Right.
all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would listen to the rehearsals. That's where I would write all of my information down
Yep.
from that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. I'd
Oh,
sit in
cool.
on the rehearsals, and we would always get the lyrics down.
Oh,
I'd
the
take some
rehearsals.
notes.
Right.
The
On
rehearsals for the
stage,
show,
the stage
yeah,
rehearsals.
But
Yep.
prior to that, so at least I'd have when I had the opportunity. Sometimes
Right.
it was great to just hear the stuff absolutely fresh, absolutely cold,
Right.
and then that's because your first impression can be your most accurate impression.
I will say the live performances were always better than the rehearsal. I mean, of
Absolutely.
course. And so when
Always.
you listen to the rehearsal, you're like, yeah, there's something cool about that, but I don't know, it's missing something. But then you see the live, and you're like, oh, they knew, they
Yeah.
already
They got it together.
They got it together. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
was nice. That was nice.
And
They were
also
good.
They were also giving, they're giving 100%. They have
Yeah.
all the chemistry going, the chemicals running, and it's live, and there's an audience, and
Yeah.
all of us always perform very differently in front of an audience
Yeah.
than
For
we
sure.
do when we're in rehearsal.
Casey, do you know the premise of the show?
We spoke about it once, but remind me. And
Yeah.
for the listeners.
I had to
And
say
for the
it
listeners.
12 times this morning, so I'm
Yeah.
versed in saying it. Do you want me to hear it?
Yeah, let's hear what you
Let's hear
said
your
12 times.
yeah. Let's
Yeah.
hear your
What's the radio-
elevator pitch of the show.
radio
I
pitch?
said, well, we chose 25 musicians from all around the world, and we curated 5 bands of 5 people out of those 25 musicians. So there were 5 great drummers, 5 great bass players, and then the rest were pretty much like multi-instrumentalist singer-songwriters. And we decided to put them in groups that either stylistically made sense or stylistically was a bit of a contrast because we thought that it would be a cool thing. And we made these 5 bands. We gave them mentors so that they had somebody that they could work with who was like a songwriter, producer person, and they could work with that person all during the week. And then at the end of each week, they had to perform the original song that they wrote on stage live at the Nashville Municipal Auditorium, which is a big place in
Beautiful
front of a live
venue.
audience. And the pressure was on. And every week they had to perform their original song. Nobody goes home. So at the end of every episode, somebody does win the night. And gets critiqued,
Yeah.
but nobody goes home, so you get to see every band evolve throughout
Wow.
the show. And it was a very cool thing. The stage was
And
incredible.
each week had a theme.
That's
Yes.
The
Each
incredible.
week
songs,
had a
there
theme.
was a
Very cool.
theme for each week. So, can we talk about any of that stuff?
Yeah, we should.
So,
Yeah.
like a banger. So each band, different styles also. So pop and country and rock, and there was a bunch of different styles. So it would be their interpretation of the theme for the week.
Very
And we
cool.
would
It
critique
was
them
cool.
on
Yeah, that
on
sounds
how
incredible.
close they hit
Yeah,
the.
that was part of our job, was to critique how well they actually did their homework assignment, so
Yeah.
to speak. Because sometimes they come up with a great song, we go, "That's a great song," but that's not a banger. Or that's a great
Yeah.
song. That's not a
Power ballad.
Power ballad, as an example. I think the power ballad was one of the most challenging for a lot of the bands.
was that the when I had that moment?
What
We
moment?
won't.
I
We won't
think
get
it might
into
have
it.
been.
We won't.
I think-
Was that
I
the
think-
power
I want
ballad?
to hear the
I
moment.
think it might
I
have
think
been.
it might have been when you had that.
I think it
moment.
might have
But we
been.
can't talk about that
You
till the
get- this
episode
is-
comes out.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
But
we'll
now
get
Such
the
an
audience
insider.
is going to be really curious about this episode because you
Yeah.
had your moment.
You had your moment.
Wow.
Well, they
A
had,
moment.
they had a moment.
They
and
had
I-
a moment, and you had to comment on that.
I
moment.
had,
And
I
you
had
had-
to
you had
address
some
things.
things.
cannot
You
wait.
addressed
Yeah.
the moment very, very directly.
Generally
we'll call it.
speaking, the musicians did a great job. I mean, they really stepped up, and they all really, by the end of the episode, the end of the season, I mean, they were, each one of them had a week where they shined, where they had a fantastic song and a great performance, and then they also kind of started to look like a little family. I mean,
Yeah,
they
that's awesome.
really did come together. I mean, it was like forced getting along kind of
Yeah,
thing.
there
It
was,
like
there was
forced-
joy,
yeah.
there was pain, there was tears,
Yeah.
there was all that.
But by
It was
the end
better
of
than
it, they
Cats.
were.
I think I got cursed out a few times.
That's great.
Oh yeah.
The most
Oh, yeah.
amazing part of it, and I brought this up a number of times, is these people did not know each other before they got into bands. So
See,
they
that-
had
yeah,
2
that's
months
crazy.
Yeah.
To
of
live
literally
together,
cultivating
write together.
themselves
Wow.
to be allegedly or
Banded.
hopefully world-class bands.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was really an amazing evolution, and I think we were all really shocked
Yeah.
at how great it became, and the songwriting. Of course, I mean, they were mentored by some, world-class songwriters and producers, but still, it's their performance,
Yeah.
and it's their choice.
I gotta say, speaking of bands, Mark, when did you join your first band? And I think just to,
Dude,
all of
I
you guys
was
are
9. And I remember
Perpetual
the
musician.
neighbor, I brought over a kid who played guitar, and we started playing, and immediately the neighbor was pounding on our door, "What are you doing?" Then my next band was just me and a piano player and an acoustic bass player, so we were more
A little,
quiet.
little softer. The first band, what were you playing? What was were you coming up with your own
Oh
stuff?
no, we
you
were
doing
just we were
covers
just
and-
we were just when we're 9 years old, we were just jamming. I don't know, I can
Noise.
He's just
Making
playing,
noise.
yeah, just playing and then we brought in a bass player that couldn't play. He could just play 2 notes, and he just played the same 2 notes over and over. But then on the
Isn't that what
night
bass
of my
players
bar
do?
mitzvah,
I
I
thought
was
that's what
12
bass
years
players
old.
did. I didn't know.
What was that?
I thought that's what bass players did. I don't
Just
know.
2 notes?
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Little shot at bass players.
I played bass.
Stupid
Yeah.
music
Growing
joke. Yeah, musicians
God.
joke.
I used
Sorry.
to play bass, and that's when I found out that that's all they do.
Right.
But the night of my bar mitzvah, 12 years old, I played my first professional gig. I got $50 to play with a horn band playing like Chicago and Blood, Sweat and Tears and all these songs with horns in it. And I just thought it was like way cooler than my bar mitzvah. You know, $50 to play. And then I was at 14 years old, all through like high school, every weekend I'd play for like proms and bar mitzvahs and weddings. We make like $125 to $200 a person way back, you know, in the dinosaur age. It was pretty amazing, man.
Yeah.
But that's what I did. I never saw anything else. I was born into this life with this proclivity to play drums.
Wait.
I could play when I was 5. I sat down as a kid. I just knew what to do.
Wow.
I just
Where did you
drums chose me.
Did you grow up in a musical household? And
Nope.
where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Valley. I'm a Valley boy in Woodland Hills, Canoga Park. My brother's
So
musical. My
cool.
parents were not. What's that?
So cool, bro.
Totally.
Yeah, sick. That's so sick, bro.
Yeah, man. You know, what can I say?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then what made you realize this was going to be my career?
I did not. I was myopic. I didn't see anything else. That was it. And my parents were both college professors, and we all had high IQs, and they just thought it was going to, oh, it's a passing phase. It's just going to be just a, you know, a hobby for Mark.
Yeah. Everybody
And
tries
then
rock
I even
and roll.
went to 2 years of college, and I quit college to play music, and they were mortified. And then I went on the road when I was 26 with Brenda Russell, the R&B artist, and I started making money. And as soon as I started making money, then my parents were like, okay, this is okay. Then my
all
career
gonna
just
work
kept
out.
on going and kept on going. But I got to tell you, until I was in my mid-40s, my mother was still saying, you should get a teaching credential so you've got something to fall back on. I kid you not.
Well,
And
you
I
are a
was- and my-
motivational speaker now, so you know.
well,
Yeah.
that it started back then because my response was always, Ma, why would I want to fall back when I could move forward?
Right.
Totally.
Totally. That's a
Good
good
It's a
one?
very
That's
motivational
Yeah.
speaker
You
type
know,
of phrase.
That's a
I like
motivational
it.
speaker type of phrase.
It
yes.
is.
So
Yeah.
I got to ask, dropping out of college, how was that conversation with your parents? Like, I think it's easy to skip
Well, it
over.
started
but
slow because
Okay.
I took a semester off and then toured when I was like 18, like through the Northwest Territory and like Canada with a top 40 band. Then I went back
You
to school.
toured the Northwest Territories of
Yeah.
Canada.
Yes, with a
As
with-
a Canadian,
with
I can tell you nobody goes up there.
I know that's
Yeah.
why, except for
Nobody.
18
what,
and
what,
19
what does
year
that
old.
mean?
It's like the Arctic.
It's freezing.
It's
wow.
literally the Arctic.
We drove our cars. We put in block heaters and drove our cars to Edmonton, and then flew to the second most northern town in this hemisphere, and then played there for 6 weeks. Then
In front
flew
of how
back.
many people? Like, how many people are?
Oh, I don't know. I was like 4 or 5. I have 5, 6 people. I don't remember. You know, a bunch of
Wow.
kids. you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
The only
Couple
people that could get to
dogs,
do
Yeah.
it. You know.
Some huskies.
Yeah, some huskies. We brought our dogs. You know. And then we just drove from Edmonton to Medicine Hat, like all through Alberta, and played every town we could,
Oh
and
my
finally
goodness,
made it back to
Medicine
LA.
Hat.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a city in Canada called Medicine Hat.
There's
Medicine Hat?
Medicine Hat.
Called Medicine Hat.
Wow.
That's what you name your cities in Canada,
Yeah,
apparently.
Yeah, that and Regina.
You say Regina?
Both inspired by drugs, probably. Let's face it.
This was way pre-drugs, I think.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no such thing as pre-drugs.
So you're touring, basically the sticks
Yeah.
and getting your
my
your
yayas out.
hours in.
Getting
right?
my hours in, clocking the hours, getting used to the cold.
And what
Came
was it-
back, went back to college, stopped again to start playing in a top 40 band, and then I just never turned back. Then I started working in the studio as a second engineer. Total Experience
Oh, really?
recording studio on Yucca and Argyle, where they had the Gap band, and then I got some engineering chops together. First I was working for free, and then they paid me $150 a week, and then I became a first engineer, and then I moved with my band up north to Portland, Oregon, where we could actually play original music and make money. The club scene was crushing in the 80s
Wow.
In Portland.
in Portland, Oregon.
Really?
And we were cool.
Is this like- so
the
this is
Portland
like-
bands were way cooler than the Seattle bands. It was pre-grunge. So we go up to Seattle, and
pre-Nirvana
everybody
kinda
loved us, and then grunge hit, and then nobody cared about Portland anymore.
Is grunge, does that fall in line with Nirvana kind of that
Yes.
same time? So
That
Nirvana
was
was
only
what? What year is that? Early 90s, right?
Late 80s.
Late
Yeah.
80s, right? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
their
Early
debut
90s.
was what 90. 92, 91.
But I think it all started. I mean, they started.
Yeah, they started it.
Yeah.
And then
Wow,
that was
cool.
like what, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Smashing Pumpkins.
Not Smashing Pumpkins.
Well, I
but,
guess they came a few years later,
You know,
but-
Mudhoney and
Yeah,
Smashing Pumpkins is not from Seattle.
well, no, they're Chicago, I think.
Yeah,
But
so they're not. They can't be grunge because grunge was strange. As like these bands like Soundgarden couldn't have been more opposite than Nirvana, but they were still considered grunge because they were a Seattle-based band. Oh, so it was more like a you know.
I didn't realize grunge was only
geographically
Seattle.
based.
I didn't realize that. I just thought it was that kind of that version of rock.
Well,
and
originally it
roll,
was.
you know,
I mean,
at the
maybe
time.
it expanded, but originally it was like a geographically based
The grunge scene
right?
came out of a
Yeah.
scene.
Like this. Like this is a scene.
Yeah.
We're a scene.
It's not grunge.
We could give ourselves a name. You want to call yourself something?
Hot scene.
What's our scene? What's our name?
Hard 75.
81 hard.
81 hard. 81 and still hard scene.
Oh my god.
what it
he has
is.
no idea what we're talking
Sorry,
about.
you don't know what we're talking
I
And
don't know
about.
what you're
also
talking
the
about.
audience, they
You're
weren't
gonna
here
love
for
it.
the previous taping, but
Casey will
Casey
fill you
here
in.
has
Yeah.
been doing a program 75 hard, and he's just blown past 75 days of
And
the
he's
hard,
81
and now he's
still
at
hard.
81 days hard.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
familiar with
I was wondering what was hard. Yeah, it's okay. Now I
as
understand.
everyone is.
Yeah.
No, it's this mental toughness challenge where you do 2 workouts a day, you drink a gallon of water a day. One of the workouts has to be outside. You have to take a progress picture, no alcohol, stick to a diet,
Read
I love
a
it.
certain
I
amount,
love it.
right?
read 10 pages.
What's the progress picture? Is that with your pants on or off? Tell me about the progress picture. I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
I can-
You talking about hard, so you know.
Are you going to show us the progress pictures?
Yeah, I can show you guys one.
He posted one, honestly, like in the 75 days. No, on Instagram.
Yeah.
He posted one.
Oh, you
Great,
did?
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you
Wow.
could definitely, 100%, you could see a
Waist
difference.
up.
100%. Yeah.
Wow.
I've seen
I'll
those
show you.
actually. I've seen the little shorts, you know.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it turned out great. And the thing is too, it's not a physical challenge that you're not focused on the physical transformation.
If you're
by any means.
Tanner in the second photo, though, I'm gonna draw foul.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call
Well,
foul just so
But
you know.
you're allowed to fake tan.
Let me
though.
see.
Okay. Oh, really?
You can't drink alcohol, but
Yeah,
you
you
can
can't.
fake tan.
But you can
yeah.
tan bed.
you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Tanning bed's okay.
Pass that to Brennan. We'll see.
Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, yeah,
The
man.
abs are popping out there.
Show Brandon.
Yeah,
Let's see.
the abs, the shoulders,
the after
the buys,
picture.
the buys, everything.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, dude. Good for you.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
I love that kind of stuff.
Let's see. The second photo.
Yeah. I mean,
Better than saying I don't
Well,
see any
I-
difference.
yeah.
There's
Is it okay if I
difference.
borrow this for a little?
Yeah.
You're too far. You're too far to fist pump. I'm sending you a fist pump in spirit. How's that?
Oh my gosh. Boom.
Wow. Nice
Good for
work.
Yeah, it's good
My
stuff.
God.
Well, I stopped
So-
drinking from the age of 22 to 39.
Wow. Why?
So that was just because I became so focused. I didn't have a drinking issue. Just became so focused. Just stopped.
What
Met
was
the mentor of my life was actually the co-writer of my second book, Dr. Jim Samuels, and nobody in this group drank.
Wow.
So I just stopped. I was ready. I was ready just to get real focused and serious. And I'd been drinking. I'd been doing, my share of drugs. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to get more focused.
What was, because I think a lot of people to stop drinking or stop doing something.
Yeah.
Was it for you just a decision you made and there was, no temptation, or what was the temptation
When I made
like?
the decision, all temptation went out the window. Because one of the things I talk about in my motivational speech, which I call myself an activational speaker because I like that. I think it's a more appropriate term. But
Very positive.
when you actually make a decision, like you made the decision to do this program,
Yeah.
you're cutting off all other possibilities. So when I decided I'm going to stop drinking, I made that decision. And it was a firm decision. And then I wasn't even tempted.
It's there's a formula for it. 98% is a pain in the ass. 100% is a breeze. If you just make the decision that you're not going to eat bread, I'm done. I don't need
Yeah.
to eat it. Pretty easy.
Yeah.
If you're like, every once in a while, if I'm like an Italian thing and they bring
Yeah.
out the rolls,
Yeah.
then I'll smother it with butter
You're
and go for it. But you're
constantly,
constantly negotiating with
Reminded,
yourself.
yeah.
But
So,
what I find is you want to find so we talk about double negative goals, which means you focus on what you don't want to do, and then you're still focused on it because that you still have that focus. I'm not going to eat bread. I'm not going to eat bread. So for me, it's like I'm going to do this instead, and so I always try to find something that's going to keep my mind oriented on a goal rather than what I'm trying to avoid. And that's a little mind trick.
What's
a little motivational mind trick for you
What's
all.
an example of that? Like, I mean, can you do that like around food or a habit? Or like what's a good example?
So around food. So as an example, if I'm thinking about eating bread, instead of eating bread, I'll just eat the hummus without the bread. So I'll eat straight hummus.
Right.
And I'll get the same kind of feeling and I'll get the same satisfaction from doing that.
So it's like replacing things
Yeah.
with something.
Well, it's just it's changing your goals, changing your orientation.
Yeah.
I just
great.
love bread so much. It's a really important part of my life.
Yeah.
Actually. I don't know.
That right behind Monster
You
Energy
look
drinks.
Okay. You're not,
Yeah. You know.
The bread's not like
You said you look okay.
I guess you look okay.
You don't have like bread handles, you know.
No.
Jordan, do 75 hard. Would you come join me?
Could I
On the
join
right
you
side.
on 75 hard? I could probably do that.
98.
That'd be great.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, it's 98.
75 hard.
That's a 98%.
Yeah.
Right
And so
there.
describe
I could
that.
probably do that.
Describe it again. What you do?
The program, I'll read them out exactly, just so I'm not butchering.
How long
it.
are the workouts per day?
45 minutes. So here's the 7 items or
Two
6.
45-minute
So you have
workouts.
2 45-minute workouts.
Okay.
One workout must be outdoors. Follow a diet. For me, that was just high protein, no desserts, like just cutting out most of all additional sugars. Take a progress picture in the mirror for 75 days. Drink a gallon of water, no alcohol or cheat meals, and read 10 pages of a nonfiction book.
Are the workouts as a matter of cardio or weights
No.
or
It's probably
you know?
once or twice a week, I was doing 2 walks. Like those count as workouts.
Why
Should outdoor
why
walk.
nonfiction? Can I ask that? Why is that?
It
Because
was
you're gaining knowledge.
Oh yeah, not the founder, the creator of the program, business guy, has a very large supplement company. He just wanted people to go, whether it's a business setting, like learn nonfiction books, and that was a thing. But I don't know exactly why. And for me, it's just I prefer nonfiction books, so it worked out.
Yeah, I do too.
I do
yeah,
too.
I just wonder
That's
if
all
it
I
was
read.
like, I wonder if there's, it's almost like I could understand if they said fiction, right? Like you need to like read fiction books
Yeah,
instead of
no.
nonfiction because it's almost like a break from there's a big information addiction thing, which I've been seeing also in the AI talks that we've been having, is that's one of like the big problems with AI currently infiltrating social media and algorithms and stuff, is that we've created this information addiction thing that people have, which I sometimes feel like I am a total addict, right?
Of
Well,
wanting to learn more, or
Yeah,
just go
just-
down the
Yeah.
rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Just
the
nonstop.
algorithms force you there.
I just want it's input. I just want nonstop input of
Yeah.
like things that I'm interested in,
Yeah.
right? And we
Yeah.
live in this world where like so much of the information that we're interested in is available to
Yeah.
us. Like it's right there. Go to YouTube and check out my algorithm. It's all, flying and space and politics and philosophy, and it's like it's all the things
It knows
that I love.
all the things you
It
want.
knows all the
Yeah.
things I want. So I can just, nerd out on that stuff, and it becomes
But
kind
see, I
of an
think
addiction.
that is healthy because that kind of information does not suck the energy out of you.
It's true, but
Like people that are news junkies, like I had literally stopped consuming. I was consuming so much news that I literally felt it was sucking the energy out of me.
well,
because
but I
most of
think
the
it
news
still
is so
can
negative.
suck the energy out of you, because what you're talking about replacing things, what you're losing in your life are those moments where people that come up with great inventions, the time that typically people come up with great inventions, it's like in the shower or you're washing your hands, you're doing something where you're just letting your mind wander.
Right.
And there's not a lot of that.
Well, yeah, you need that balance. I agree. Absolutely,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like to bring be listening to the podcast while you're in the shower, and then when you're getting dressed, you're listening,
Yeah.
you're continuing all that stuff,
I
right?
get that.
All those times in your life where you should be,
Yeah.
have just like kind of a wandering mind where you're like pondering the day or doing whatever. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why you've seen such a rise in meditation in general, is
Yeah.
because
I was just gonna
people
say that.
are,
Yeah.
The lack
people are
of-
yearning for some
Yeah.
kind of
It's critical.
stillness in their
Yeah.
life. It's become kind of a critical thing. Yeah.
And the chance to just let your mind wander. Same reason why, like when I work out, you go to the gym and work out, it's like almost everybody has headphones in because they're listening to something. And I was doing that too. And then I decided, you know what? When I work out, I'm purposely going to not have any other input, because then I can allow my mind, I'm focused on the workout. I'm more focused on the workout, but I also can allow my mind to be free and to dream and to expand. And I
Yeah.
come up with so many ideas when I do that. Then I'll take out my phone and go da 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 because I came up with an idea because
Yeah.
I wasn't listening to music or listening to the news or listening to a podcast or something. You know,
That's one of the things that I hear consistently from people that do the silent retreats. You know,
Yeah.
they do like 14 days or whatever or 10 days of no talking. That their creative mind begins to just kind of almost drive them crazy. Like they cannot stop thinking about all these ideas and things
Yeah.
they should do, and so the creative
That
parts
makes
of your
sense.
brain just really starts to take
fantastic,
off.
of course.
Have you guys done that before? Like silent
No,
retreats?
but
I
I
have
actually
not.
really want to implement like a day a month or something
Yeah,
like that, where I
yeah.
just spend the whole.
You can't
day.
do that when you have kids.
That's my problem, right? It's like
We
so
could
many of these
swap.
things I see, like, yeah, I mean, so many things in my life I think, oh, I'll do that one day. But how long are you going to wait for it? Like, my kids could handle one day a month where daddy's like, just not, one day,
No
one Sunday a
talking.
month. Yeah, or I would
Well,
have to leave. I couldn't be
Yeah.
You would
around.
disappear, and your
But,
your wife's
you know-
going to be in agreement with it, of course, and
Right. It's like she can do it too, right?
Yeah.
And I can look after the kids when she's gone. But I think it's important to try to think about it's a hard thing because, as you know, when you have young kids, it's a challenge. I mean, it's a
course,
real big
of
time
course.
suck, and you also don't want to let them down, right? You know, these are such informative years, and like
But you
my
know
little
what's interesting
3-year-old
about
boy
that,
is
though?
like, I want to be there for
You're
them.
not letting them down because if you, it's like putting on your oxygen mask first. If you nurture yourself with that one day, then you're a better parent. So that's the way I would look at it because
Right.
you're giving yourself the time that's going to enable you to evolve and expand, and you will be better.
Give you
with
new
them,
parenting
you know.
ideas in that downtime.
Well, it just makes you a higher quality being because
Right.
you're giving yourself something that you truly believe you
It's
deserve.
true, but there's a balance with that. I've spent a lot of my life being relatively selfish. I kind of have done the things that I want to do when I want
Yeah.
to do them. I mean, that was kind of how I grew up, right?
Right.
So I try to be really aware of like when I'm just doing the things for me, and not doing them for my kids.
Well, that's what balance is all about.
Exactly. That's what I mean, is like striking a balance.
Yeah.
Something like a day retreat where I don't talk, I think that would be really, really good and really restorative for me. Therefore, I think that that's like an okay trade-off.
Absolutely.
Whereas, me going on a surf trip to Mexico, even though it was a
Yeah.
lot of fun, maybe, my time
Yeah.
could be spent with my kids and not be so
Oh, absolutely.
selfish in that regard, right? So I'm constantly in that battle.
And I didn't know you when you were younger, and the adult you is just the opposite because I think you became hyper aware of the fact that you were so selfish. So now you're almost just the opposite. You're like very,
Oversteer,
very aware.
man. It's oversteer. I swear.
That's okay. That's again, that's balance too, though, because you need
Yes,
to.
yes. You have
it's
to
like the
oversteer
pendulum
to be
needs
able
to
to find
swing.
that,
So
yeah.
that's part of it.
I think we all do that.
We do that.
Personally, but then also as a society. I've been using that term a lot, that word a lot, when we talk about political stuff and just kind of society and how we go down
Yeah.
the road. We really do oversteer our way down
Yeah.
the road. One issue pops up, and so
That's exactly what happens.
you have to have like this counteroffensive, right?
It's action reaction.
It's not.
So
Yeah,
simple,
it's
yeah.
action reaction. It's not. It's not a coincidence that you have some of the conspiracies of the far right, and then you have the ridiculousness of some of the woke agenda, right? That
Right.
Yeah.
It's like it's not a coincidence that
Right.
that those things
Definitely
happen
not.
simultaneously because they're a direct reaction to one another.
And
Yep.
fashion is the same way. You have one type of fashion, and then the next sort of style of fashion is kind of just the opposite. Music, you went from like you have disco and then punk and then like heavy like hair metal bands. It's like one is they become such a reaction to the last
Right.
style.
Right.
So
It's all on a sort of
yeah.
pendulum, and
Yeah,
it'll.
it's like,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, which is one way to describe it. It's just the pendulum over. Grew up as a go-kart. I wanted to be a race car driver. I just like the oversteer thing. Feels like the right
there you go.
example. We're just sliding our way down the highway like this.
Good metaphor.
I like it.
that one. I like that metaphor.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Sorry. So I was just asking. All right. So now you're on the road. You're making money from the thing that you love. Just
Yes.
we I think all of us are very fortunate that we've all been able to tap into that thing that we love and do it. And so, but now you're kind of on a slightly different path. And so how did you get from I'm on the road, being in a band or being a musician, this is my life, and then up to now? Like what is the transition there?
Well, I think I have the teaching gene in me. my mother ran the tutorial center at LA Pierce College.
Okay.
And I was a grammar and composition tutor because my father had written 4 college level grammar books, had a PhD in grammar and composition. So my mother illegally at 19 years old gave me my own class to teach because she said, I think you can do this.
Wow.
And I got it in front of the class. I was like, oh, this is interesting.
At college?
In college. But
Wow.
like I was
19-year-old teacher in a college class. Look
But
at this guy,
I was teaching
overachiever.
ESL, English second language.
Oh, okay.
So in 1991, I did my very first drum clinic, music clinic in front of drummers. And I was really kind of tripped out and scared about that. But when I did it, I realized, wait a minute, I like this. And then I started doing a lot of drum clinics, probably 1,000. And after a while, I realized that people were resonating more with the sort of stories and success coaching than just the playing.
Right.
And then at a point, I realized, I could take this methodology, I could take this whole protocol, and I could start applying it to other areas, like the collegiate area and the corporate area. Because why limit it to the small, microcosm of drummers and musicians?
Right.
And that's what I did. So I started to devise and rework the content so it became applicable. And I started doing these college gigs. And then I got real serious and started doing some corporate gigs. When I say serious, I studied with 2 speaking coaches, an acting coach, a director, a storyteller. And I decided I want to refine this because this is a great business, and this is a higher level of purpose for me.
Yeah.
And it's a chance for me to utilize all the information, all that I am, because even though I only went to 2 years of college, I was studying a lot of philosophy, a lot of information, and I realized that I have the platform because now I've played with all these people, so I'm quote unquote a celebrity drummer, whatever that means. I didn't really care about ego-wise, but I thought people will pay attention. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, I just started cold calling all the agencies because we get booked by agents. They're called speakers bureaus. But I had a great opening line because I said, I'm the drummer for Pink, and I do this high performance, high energy sort of, I call it a rock show disguised as a keynote. Can I have 30 seconds of your time? So I started building relationships. Then I got management. And then I started getting more and more bookings. And I started refining what I do. And then I really started getting a lot of bookings. And I was doing a lot of bookings on the road, like on the off days when I was out with Pink. And I wrote my first book when I was with Foreigner and Pink, and that must have been 10 years ago, called Conquering Life Stage Fright, 3 Steps to Top Performance. So Conquering Life Stage Fright is the loss leader. It's all about the 3 steps to top performance.
Right.
So it's sort of a metaphor for anything, any kind of performance that you need to do. Because I knew as a speaker I needed a book. So that was one of the prerequisites. So I sort of followed I learned as much as I could. And I spoke to managers and agents and other speakers, and the speakers became my heroes. They became my rock stars. I'd study so many speakers and just learn whatever I could. And started becoming more and more successful. And I realized, essentially, when I talked to Pink's manager and this next tour was coming up, and he said, Matt, you can't really speak now because, we don't want you leaving and it's COVID. And I thought, well, I've built this business and I think I'm beyond touring now. I've been with Pink for 15 years. It's been amazing. I've been touring for 32 years. I've built this amazing client base, this amazing agent base, and I don't want to give it up. And I decided for me, it just...
You made the choice.
I made a choice,
Yep.
and it's just so much more gratifying for me. I play drums. Drums is my foundation, so I use the drums, demonstratively to demonstrate a lot of the points. I have some very defined points. Now I speak on the power of attitude. So my next book it's called The Attitude Formula, which I co-wrote with the mentor that I met 35 years ago when I stopped drinking, Dr. Jim Samuels. And it's a very simple concept that we cannot control what happens to us so much of the time, but we always have the power to change, control, or shift our attitudes about what is happening. And you could do that right now. And it's making a decision. I talked about making a decision earlier because your attitude is what drives your behavior. Now think about the power and, what that can create for you. So by shifting your attitude, you're driving different behaviors, and your behavior is what determines the consequences or outcomes of your life. ABC, attitude, behavior, consequence.
So what is, just to touch on that, what's an exercise that someone can do if, you get some bad news or something outside stimulus kind of hits you and you don't know how to react to it? What are the things that you sort of employ to shift that attitude?
Well, I talk about some very specific attitudes in my speech. One is shifting your have-tos to get-tos. That's an attitude shift. One is the power of gratitude. The power of gratitude is really amazing. A great example of that is you're feeling funky, you get some bad news, or you're just in a bad state. Because your attitude really is your foundation. That's who you are. It drives what you do. It drives how you think. It drives how people respond to you.
Right.
So gratitude is an example. If you just stop and you really are committed to thinking about somebody or something that really brings you gratitude, and you let it really sort of consume you, and you put all your focus on that to the point where your body's starting to almost release and you start to smile, you will create a shift. And then what I say is stop and do it again, and do it 4 or 5 times until you are literally like, you have like what I call a shift-eating grin on your face, and you have created an attitude shift because you've changed your focus. Because so much of it is just, what are you focusing on?
Yeah, what are you paying attention to?
What are you paying attention to?
We become what we pay attention to.
And it's pretty simple. And then I also do an actual attitude shift that I created for myself that I teach the audience, which I can talk about now if you like. Be very quick. So what I do is I just choose an attitude that's going to serve me. Courage, love, gratitude, joy, whatever it might be. So I take joy as an example. So I just recall a time or an event when I was joyful. So simple, because we all have these events with your friends, with your family, with your mate, whatever, partying, going on vacation, reading a great book, watching a great movie, running 26K and getting drummers high, whatever brings you joy. But you need to attach physiology to it. That's something that I learned probably from Tony Robbins, is that you attach some physiology and it actually puts it in the body. So what I do is I recall the time when I was joyful, and I want to also attach as many senses from that original event that I can remember, because it brings it in a present time, because your mind is not time-bind emotional experiences. You can literally relive an emotional experience, as you know. I mean, that's one of the traumas. It can be a trauma, and it can be an amazing asset. So if you want to relive a joyful experience, you will relive it like it happened originally if you attach, if you commit to it and you attach the senses that happened at the original time.
Right.
So one example I use in my speeches is we were on vacation in Puerto Vallarta, and I recall a joyful experience. My daughter and I decided we wanted to sneak into the pool after hours. So I want to attach all of these senses to it. Oh, I forgot one critical thing is you want to sort of get your mind ready. So you want to prep your mind like something really cool is about to happen. So the easiest way to do that is to literally count backwards by 5, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the physicality that I do is I close my eyes, I clench my fists, I tighten my core really tightly, and then I recall that joyful moment while I'm creating this physiological change, and I'm attaching the senses from the time. So now I'm recalling this joyful moment with my daughter. And we are in the pool, and the pool is freezing, and I'm getting goosebumps. I'm smelling the chlorine, and then I'm just listening to my daughter just laughing and kicking, and I'm hearing the echoes bouncing off of the water. And now I'm feeling my daughter carrying me underneath the water like she does. She's 100 pounds, I'm 160. And I am feeling that joy. It's real, because I literally just recreated that joy. So that is an immediate attitude shift, and that can pull the funk out. It especially, I mean, if it's really traumatic or you have real anxiety, and I tell people this doesn't necessarily take the place of your pharmaceuticals, but if you actually really commit to this, you can literally shift your attitude. And one example I did this, for my keynote for the audience, did the attitude shift. I used joy as the example. And then I did a meet and greet afterwards. And the meet and greet people come up and they, I give them a hug, we take a little photo. This woman came up, she would not let go of me. She was in tears. And I was like, what is going on? She said, right after you taught us this attitude shifting exercise, I got a call from my adult daughter who suffers from anxiety attacks. And she immediately takes her medication, but she couldn't find her medication. So she was totally freaking out. She said, so I ran this attitude shifting exercise. And I tell people I run it 4 or 5 times on myself in a row. It takes about a minute. Different. And so, because it'll last 2 hours, it'll last all day. If I'm having a challenging day, I rerun it multiple times. She ran it on her daughter 4 times, and she said her daughter's anxiety nearly went away. She became in control, and it wasn't overwhelming her.
Right.
And that's when I say, I don't make any disclaimer that you shouldn't be using your pharmaceuticals, but I do say it works if you work it. It's just a tactic and a technique that I use for myself frequently, and it works. So that's one example of attitude shifting.
I
love that.
Is there a couple things that I can add to the things that you said that just sparked some ideas?
Please do.
Initially, you were talking about controlling your reaction to things, and I remember hearing a formula. I like formulas. That made a lot of sense. Outcome is equal to event times reaction. So something happens in your life, you react a certain way, it's a multiple that will then dictate what the outcome is. So something can happen in your life, and the one thing that you have control over is your reaction. And by controlling your reaction to whatever it is that happens in your life, you then will dictate what the outcome of that event is, right?
Absolutely.
Also, I remember learning one time, which is cool, that a lot of those, the feelings that
Can
we
I
have.
add something to that?
Yes,
though?
please do.
Because I work with a neuro coach, Heather Kreider. We're doing a program together. My program's called Hacking the Rockstar Attitude. Ours together is called Hacking the Rockstar Brain. We met because we were both speaking. We realized that we had very similar philosophies. We just approached them very, very differently. And what I wanted to add to that is what helps you to control your reaction is what she calls the power of the pause. Because if you pause for a moment, you can then think, and as opposed to reacting, you are then responding. Because I talk about the difference between reacting and responding. When you're reacting, you're playing old reactions, old defenses, old prejudices. Whereas when you are responding to somebody,
It's thoughtful. And
well, it's inventive and it's creative and it's spontaneous. It's like us even paying attention and really being present, being mindful when we're judging those bands.
Right.
We're responding.
Yep.
We're not reacting. And it helps in intercommunication so much when you're dealing with like your mate, especially if you just the power of the pause, you stop, and rather than playing these old tapes in your head, you want to be present. You want to be mindful. So how can I approach this with a response, with something that is actual and something that I can grab onto now, be creative with now, rather than reacting the same old patterns that I'm used to reacting with.
it's great. It's
So
very,
that's an expansion on that particular formula that you
yeah,
said.
totally. And that's a good thing to implement in people's lives where they can actually make a difference. Also, you were talking about past experiences and how those feelings are available to us now, right? And you gave us an example. I remember discovering in my life that it's not just the feelings of the past, it's also future feelings that are available to us as well. It's like we're all striving for goals, right? We all feel like if I can just get to this place, if I can just get this AI business to take off and all the things that I want from it, right? If I could just live in this part of the world, if I could just watch my kids at this age, if I could, whatever it is, these things, these goals that we set for ourselves that we think are going to bring us a certain amount of joy, that joy is available to us now. We just have to meditate, close our eyes, think about it, and allow those feelings to be available to us now in the present. So all the things that we're striving for in the future, it's not just past memories, it's all future, the future version of ourselves that is also available to us in these moments. And that could potentially help us to go through life in a more thoughtful way, right? because we're not doing it because we think we're unhappy and we think this other thing is going to make us happy once we get there. We actually have the happiness right now, and it might kind of change the way that we navigate life moving forward.
Well, it's funny you talk about that you say that, because I actually do that with my speeches. Before I go on to give a speech, my mantra, prayer, whatever you want to call it, first of all, is just to be completely of service. I don't talk about me. I talk about how I want the audience to respond, what I want them to do, that I want to change their lives. I want to exceed their expectations. I want their experience to be so glorious. I want them to walk away with content that they can use right away. I want them to walk away with an experience. And mine is all about hacking the rock star attitude. So I show them and talk about rock and roll swagger and how they can connect. So it's not about how cool I am, it's about how cool they are. But another thing I do is I manifest the outcome by feeling exactly as closely as I can what it's going to feel like while I'm on the stage, doing the certain segments that I say, how the audience will respond, the outcome, what the outcome is going. I'm going to see the outcome. I'm going to see how happy everybody is. I'm going to see the line of people waiting on the side of the stage to come on stage to get photos. So you're literally you're manifesting these future memories.
Yep.
And I've read about some science that actually validates that as potential, you can really potentially actually do that.
Yeah,
If you're
shaping.
that
It's like
powerful,
shaping
you're
our future.
Shaping your future.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the best way to predict your future is to create it.
Right.
And that's what you're doing with that. And
Yeah.
I love that. And I absolutely believe that's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, not to an absolute extent, because I'm going to manifest $1 million. Well, no, but it's talking about things that you actually really can control and experiences that you can see happening a certain way. And then you're actually creating, it's like you're building future neural connections, like neural networks. And Heather talks about that as well. So, yeah, I absolutely believe that. I love that. That was great.
And success is often a byproduct of the work, and the work is sort of a byproduct of how you feel. How you feel. Like if you create an environment around yourself where you're motivated, you're excited, you're driven, you're focused, then sort of all these other things kind of follow behind it. But first, you have to get in that place. We kind of talked about that a little on the previous episode. If you're not sort of like laser dialed on a diet, for example, if you don't believe in it, you're not going to stick with it. It's very difficult to stick with things if you don't create that belief. So I think what you're speaking to is a lot of the sort of mental preparation to be ready for success, or to be ready for the whatever your goal or desire is.
Well, that's the preface. That's the prelim. You need to get yourself ready for it and get yourself with that attitude,
right?
With that state, as Tony Robbins would call it. And then what we're talking about is the next step, which is actually like building neural networks in your brain of having already achieved it, so to speak. And when you're making those connections in your brain, your chances of actually creating it, because you've really imagined it and you've really
you're committed.
You've committed to it, but you've seen the details of it. We're talking about building real details, like building an actual experience in your head that you anticipate. And
we underestimate how powerful we are with regard
Absolutely.
to that. I mean, if you just look at the past and you look at the movies that we made 50 years ago, I mean, it's like, about the future. It's like we're basically living there right now.
Yeah.
So to think that,
The movies are way ahead of
to
us.
think that our imagination doesn't have something to do with the world that we see around us, I think it's a little bit naive.
absolute
I actually think
manifestation.
that a lot
It
of
really
this is
I agree.
our own kind of creation, our own manifestation potentially, and that we're only really limited by our imagination.
Absolutely. And that's
So
why you
get
need
ready
to
for the
take
Terminator,
that means
Skynet.
You need to
it's
take
coming.
your 1 day a month for yourself
Yeah.
to let your imagination go wild. You'll be a better man and a better father as a result. I love
Totally.
that idea, by the way. I may do that myself.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know.
Or smoke a little weed and just sit in that sauna you got there, and you're
Yeah,
good to go.
that works too, I guess.
Or we could have some tequila too.
Or
you
we
know,
could just
tequila
have
helps.
tequila
Yeah, a
and
little
laugh
bit of
our
everything.
asses off. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Or
What was,
dinner. I think we're ready for dinner, man. I'm starving.
that's
Yeah.
true.
what was the first stage you spoke on? And like, what is that, when you think about that moment, how have you grown from that as a speaker?
Well, the first like bona fide corporate gig I got, which is so funny, it was through Robert Davidman, one of the producers of the show, who's my old friend, who brought me into the show. He also hooked me up with the first agent, because the speaking agent, Maureen Brooks, was like his second mom. He used to grew up with the kids. So she brought me in, and she got me my first corporate gig speaking for Information Global Solutions. And
What is that?
I thought I did pretty well. But some of her agents were there, and her agents were like, you're not ready.
Oh.
But, it was a stepping stone. That was the first time. But
Yeah.
I got 2 standing ovations. But, of course, I was unrefined. It was 15, 16, 17 years ago. I mean, how much have I grown and what have I
Yeah,
learned since
of
then?
course.
I didn't really know the corporate audience yet. But I had some great philosophies, and there was stuff for people to learn. As long as you could take away, look, we all have stories to tell, and we can all learn from each other. You could tell me a story, you could tell me a story, you can give me information, I'm going to learn from you. It's all about, do we have the platform, and how refined are we in what we communicate? And we learn through stories. So everything I do is story-based. If I just talked about ABC, I don't even talk about ABC until I'm 20, 25 minutes into my speech, because I've already told all these stories that demonstrate it. So by the time people hear it, they go, oh,
It works.
it works
Yeah.
because of the story.
Yeah.
I mean, even going down to for God's sake, to the Bible, and I'm not a religious guy, but the Bible was all stories. That's how people learn. And the stories are passed down. They're told orally. So, by the time, a couple of generations, they're completely different stories anyway, but hopefully people are still getting the information that they need to get, the valuable information from the stories. But that's really the way that we learn the most.
Yeah.
It's the emotion that we attach, because the emotion that we attach to what we learn is going to determine whether it's going to stick.
I couldn't agree more. Outside of this podcast, I've had my own podcast for 5.5 years, and I've learned so much from the stories that I've listened to that people tell on the show, that it's just transformative in terms of like how you learn through stories. And I think like for you, and outside of you being a storyteller, I would love to hear, you've brought up Tony Robbins a couple of times. Who are some of your mentors or people that you look up to that are speakers in the way they tell stories, whether that's in a music setting or in a speaking setting?
Well, Dr. Jim Samuels has been my mentor for like 35 years. He's just a brilliant teacher. He's like Tony Robbins brilliant. He just never cared about being famous. But his philosophies are just absolutely just unprecedented. I was a big Wayne Dyer fan. I listen to everybody I can from, wow. I've read a bunch of Tony Robbins books. I've done his deep dives when I did, the full money, the money mastery, and I just read his Life Force book. Because when Tony goes into something, he goes very, very, very deep. I like Mel Robbins as well. She's fantastic. I listen to everybody I can. I love Sam Harris. As far as speakers, Mike Abrashoff, who is actually, I am managed by Tony D'Amelio. Mike is one of the people that is managed by Tony as well. So Tony is the greatest speaker manager on the planet, and now I'm on his roster. And that just happened 2 months ago, so I'm so honored.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That's
Mark
awesome.
Schoenbrock, one of the greatest speakers ever. A dear friend of mine, Dan Thurman, who was so good, we shared the stage. I said, I got to take some lessons from you. Because he's a juggler. He's like me. He's like an edutainment speaker.
Yeah.
But he was so good. I said, I can learn from you. Patricia Fripp, who's Robert Fripp's sister, who's been on the road with King Crimson, the greatest speaking instructor on the planet. Amazing speaker, amazing instructor. I learn from anybody that I can, anybody that I see. I also watch comedians and learn a lot from comedians, because comedians are absolutely brilliant. Robin Williams, unprecedented.
Masters of crowd control.
Yeah. I mean,
Masters.
and timing. And I watch body language. I watch all nuances because that's one of the things that I really learned as I refine my craft is the nuances. And also, frankly, I'm not naturally funny. Some people are just naturally funny. So for me to develop the comedic response from the audience, I really needed to practice and to learn and to work the timing and figure out little spaces and little things I could do and like a slight variation in how I say something will induce a laugh, whereas before it didn't. All of a sudden I realized, and one day I did it differently. I said, oh, wait a minute. Now I'm onto something. So it's like your 10, 20, 30,000 hours you gain. Every time I get on stage, I get better.
Yep.
Yeah.
We all get better. Every single time you produce anything, you get better. Anytime we write a song, we get better. You learn, you learn, you learn. You're either growing or you're dying. And that's how it goes.
Yep.
There's nothing in between. And I literally just watched Magic Johnson speak. And I was really fascinated because he's such a celebrity and he's in the audience. So most of what he does is like ask people their names and like, chest pumps them and tells a little bit of a story and asks them their story. And I thought, I should get into the audience more. So the last gig, I just watched him. So I said, on my next gig, which is the last one I did, I said, I'm going to have a microphone. I'm going to go in the audience. I'm going to start engaging people more. And he always takes selfies. So I said, I'll take selfies with people. I'll ask them a question. And I just started incorporating that. And it went beautifully. So from here on out, that's now a part of what I do. Just added 10 minutes to my goddamn speech. So now I got to cut something else out. But it's important because the engagement is so critical.
Very key.
I love that.
Can you tell us about these glasses? So I always admire these glasses on Mark, and you wear them everywhere, and you have probably 100 pairs of these, right?
I got one word for you. GERD.
GERD.
What does GERD mean?
Can you clear that up with an ointment? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah.
I don't know.
GERD is the
I
gentleman.
don't know if I want GERD.
I don't know if I want GERD. I don't know.
GERD is the Dutch gentleman that makes these glasses. So I saw him on a drumming buddy of mine from the UK, Mike Dolbear, years ago. He's wearing just acoustic versions, I call them. So they're versions that were just wood. What this guy does is this guy cuts them from 22-inch bass drum shells. These are made from drums.
Wow.
And GERD can take any design you want, and he will cut them. So when I saw them on my buddy Mike Dolbear, I said, you got to get in touch with this guy, and his name is GERD. I just love that name because you would never have that name in America.
Right.
But he's an awesome guy, and he just does it kind of on the side, although he did just get a contract with one of the great drum companies, DW. And I said, oh, you got to make me some glasses. So he came up with the Mark Schulman line because I gave him 6 designs that I liked. And he would literally and then he would send me just sort of fake versions, so I could he'd say, send me a photo. And then he would just put all these different glasses on the photo. Like, I like that, I like that, I like that, I like that. Or can you do this? Or can you make this more round?
Right.
And so now I have, all these different designs. And this is a drum cover. This is the classic Buddy Rich marine pearl cover. And my daughter calls me these, who's the character in
Harry Potter?
Harry Potter.
They're very
Yeah.
Harry Potter-esque.
Yes, these are my Harry Potter glasses, and I have some that are more, standard, a different shape, and then I have some that are kind of more rounded, and some that are. So I
Just very unique.
Yeah.
And that's one
unique.
thing, like,
Very.
you have your own unique style, you have your own unique...
It's my shtick, man. I mean,
yeah.
how many people can get away with, what I get away with? I always feel like I buy the stuff that nobody else will buy, and then I just put it on and I get away with it. I mean, you look at this, like, a buddy of mine actually makes it. This is a King James, I'm going to promote King James silk scarves, because these are great. So I wear scarves.
Sorry,
like,
James Purse.
I just-
We're also sponsored by James Purse. Just a quick disclaimer. Okay.
well, sorry.
No, I'm just kidding.
And so I love to wear scarves like when I give my
great.
speeches, because all I do is I just wear a T-shirt, a vest, and a scarf. It's my thing.
Wow.
And then I found this, and I found my old Mark Nason boots, and I thought, well, man.
When you say you found them, how do
Yeah.
you find shoes?
Well, no, I'm saying like they were there, but I haven't worn them in a long time. And
Got
then I
it.
realized this actually goes with this, which actually goes with this. They all kind of clash, but they all kind of work. But when I put them on, it's like I just feel like it works.
It
Again,
does work.
manifestation.
Totally
I put
works.
it on and it works.
I'm
It
hoping
just
that one
works.
day you guys will just exchange clothes.
swap
for-
clothes.
I would love to
Yeah.
see that.
Well, when we were on the
You wanna
show,
do it right
I
now?
did.
We could do it in front of everybody. Come on, let's get naked, man.
I did steal one of his blazers for one episode of the show.
He did.
Oh, you did?
And the
Yeah.
fact that you call it blazer, I just love that.
What do you call it?
Men wear
Jacket?
jackets, yeah.
Oh, women wear blazers.
Yeah,
oh,
technically. It's
I don't
okay.
know.
You know,
I
man,
went to
you know what,
private
man?
school for 1 year, and they
It's
called it
okay.
a blazer. They
It's okay.
didn't-
You know,
they didn't,
a man can
Right,
wear a
right.
blazer.
Yeah.
You know, my daughter's.
I didn't know
My
really
daughter's
that,
13.
but I
Yeah.
guess he's right. I
would
think
I
he's
say
right.
blazer sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally, I'm totally busting your chops.
That's okay.
My daughter's 13, and it's like they're every kind of gender you can imagine now exists. I love how the pendulum is completely
That's another,
swung
yeah,
the other way.
pendulum,
Another
yeah.
example
Right,
of
yeah.
that. You know, so many of our friends are like non-binary and gender fluid, and there's all these different definitions, and they take it very seriously. And so I realize it's important, certainly, to these people that they create this identification. The only thing that I can't get on with is this whole cat thing. Like, I'm a cat, and I have a litter box, and so they have kids that
have you guys heard of
are
this?
cats,
That are shitting in a litter box.
and they have litter
basically, is what
box.
you're
They bring
saying?
their own
That's
litter box
lovely.
into the classroom because they're
Yeah,
a cat.
I actually had a conversation with my aunt recently, and because she had these younger kids, and this was the topic, and I was completely blown away that this is actually happening.
It's what happened right before Rome fell, guys. This kind of stuff. I mean, it's also
Like, well,
It's
it's
getting
a
a
little
little- it's getting
it's
a little-
much.
a little
it's like
much.
let's
It's a little
take
out
care
there.
of our basic needs, and
We
then
also just
and then
went-
let's start like making everything convenient in life to the point where we are so cushy
Yeah.
that we need, you know, that like you got to be a
everyone-
cat to be
Yeah,
happy
no,
now at
it's-
some
it's
point.
ridiculous.
Like you're,
Well,
you know,
everyone just wants everyone else to like agree with them on everything because our social media algorithms already do that for us, right? Everything we see
Right,
is
right.
in agreement of what.
Right.
So then when you're in your real life and you spend, 18 hours a day staring at a phone or an iPad or whatever it is, and then you go have an interaction and someone doesn't agree with you, it's like very uncomfortable. So I think you're onto something
Yeah.
with there's. The pendulum has gone now too far the other way. I
Yeah.
think we need to
It's
find
swung, but I will
know-
also remind you, we did just go through COVID, and that was very, very traumatic for kids.
It was.
Very
was,
traumatic,
sure.
especially the like adolescent kids that were used to being very, very social. So I use that as
How long until we don't have to talk about COVID anymore? Like ever?
Well, the mask
I don't think we ever will.
mandate, the mask mandate
we
was
still talk
lifted.
about the flu pandemic of 1918 only
Yeah.
because we went through this, but like it's a part of our history that we will refer to for quite
Yeah,
some time. I
absolutely.
mean, my kids, I'm gonna have to refer to it with them. It'd be like, oh yeah, right. Well, that was during the
But they
pandemic.
were
We
so,
just
your
will.
kids were so young; they're probably not going to remember it.
My
Fortunately.
daughter will remember masks.
Oh, your
Sure.
daughter.
Oh, yeah.
No, the boys they
Your
won't.
boys are 2.5.
They're gonna
though,
grow
right?
up like,
Your
yeah,
twins,
what was that? That they didn't.
Yeah, they were.
But my daughter will remember.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
she will.
You
My
know,
daughter's
she'll-
going to remember clearly. She's 13.
She'll remember wearing masks to school and how uncomfortable.
When
it
you're
was
13,
Her
that's a tough thing
Her
because
mask
3 years
just
of
came
this,
off
right?
Right.
2 weeks ago.
to go to school and stuff like that.
It just
Right.
came off.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, with that, that's the end of our episode with Mark Schulman. Yeah, thank you very
Put
much
that
for
tequila
joining
down.
questions. And Mark, thank you for being here and for sharing some of your wisdom,
know
man.
what?
You got a
Yeah,
lot of
this is
it.
great, Mark.
Appreciate you, bro.
You know.
Thank you, Mark.
I'm really excited that you did this. I mean, this is all.
I'll loop you in.
Oh,
here.
yeah, thank you, thank
there
you.
we go.
Okay.
There we go.
big love loop.
I lassoed over to you. Yeah.